like this, lightning sessions, where we discuss surface topic like SDK and some other stuff. Another important stuff that might embarrass you during an interview, so you don't want to mess with them. Imagine you think yourself a senior engineer and that's what's SDK. You have been talking about this thing. Tell us a bit about it. Again, so you don't want to embarrass yourself. So some other interesting topics we've had over the previous many months we have been doing this. We have a YouTube channel, we have a WhatsApp channel, we also have our LinkedIn channels. We'll post on our YouTube. You can get our recordings on our YouTube whenever you want to learn and online. Okay, so without further ado and so much talking, we'll be dropping the social media link this for those that are not in the group or want to refer some other people to join. You get comprehended? So we'll be dropping that this message so you can check that out. So without further ado, again, I'll be bringing up our speaker. Please, as a co-speaker, I want to see reactions. That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite students. I don't want to say favorite now before somebody will blame me. So I'm not seeing our reactions. What's happening? Are you guys managing it? Has it been exhausted? I'm not seeing the reaction. I'm not seeing it. Balogun, I'm not going to repeat myself again if you do this. I'm not going to. Good. Okay. So let me welcome our speaker. Her name is Nena. I'll try to pronounce the other part. Aziguzo. Sorry, Nena. Ezidiogu. So she's our speaker for today. And please do well to ask questions. She's ready for you. I think let me know. She's ready for you. So do well to ask questions and let's dive in. Madam Nina, you can step up. You guys should encourage her, please. She's shy. Nina, we can't hear you in case you are speaking. Sorry, excuse me. Nina, are you there? You said don't clap, please. You are restricted from clapping. Nina, are you there? Yeah, I think our network is back. She will be joining shortly. She'll be joining shortly. Just give us.
Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, sorry, I had network issues. That's why I left for a while. But okay, my name is Nena Ezidiogu. That's how it's pronounced, Samuel. And today I'm going to be using Spring Boot, with Spring Boot basically. So I'm going to be sharing my screen because I have a slide to show. And then I'm also going to show my code base because I have an application I built to show it. Okay, so can you guys see my screen? Let me increase this here. How do I remove this whatever thing here? Let me just move this down. Okay, so sorry, I'm going to be talking about REST APIs and okay, so I'm going to start by explaining what REST is. Please, can you guys react to, so I'll know if you guys are actually hearing me. Okay, so I'm going to continue now. I'm going to first of all explain what this acronym REST actually means, because it's an acronym. So it means representational state transfer. Now this state here, what we're talking about, when we mention state, just know we're talking about data. And data is mutable, data can change at any time. We're talking about maybe a user's data, we're talking about an order data, a product data, it could be anything here. And then for user data, let's just assume it's my data. My first name, maybe it's just Nena, and then maybe my email today is like nena@gmail.com. I could change my email and maybe it's now favor@gmail.com. So that's what I mean by state is actually mutable. It can change. And then the term there, transfer, we're familiar with that. It's basically just movement, basically. So this REST now, this representational state transfer, is basically data moving from maybe one point to another. It could be from the client to the server, from the server to the client. That's basically what this whole REST representational state transfer, just how we represent that whole movement of data from maybe client to the server or whatever, just so that data is being moved from one place to another. So aside this now, I would also like to explain now this REST API now, it has a communication method, which is stateless. Now, when I say stateless, you might be confused because I mentioned state earlier, but don't be confused. When I say stateless, what I mean is every request is an independent request. Yeah, when I say it's an independent request, it does not, I don't know if this my pop-up is blocking a hair. Let me just keep it this side. Okay, every request is independent of the previous request. Like every request does not care about the previous request. Now, what I mean is, for example,
you can close it.
Where do I close it? Okay, just okay. So okay, let me continue. As I was saying, every request is like an independent request. So maybe for this, maybe the first request you're trying to do is like to get users or whatever, that gets users. Now you're sending each request is coming with like everything that the server actually needs. If you're trying to like get users, you're sending it with an authentication token as well. So like every request has everything that the server needs to actually maybe give you the information you need or whatever. Now, this is because of, we have something that we call CSRF, that's cross-site request forgery. Now, cross-site request forgery basically happens when, let me just explain it like this here. It's basically when, okay, maybe like a malicious app or a malicious, yes, let me just say a malicious app takes advantage of, you already, let's say you have maybe a banking app or whatever, and you're already like logged in and everything. So it takes advantage of the fact that you're already logged in, that your authenticated session, and then it performs, malicious activities disguised as you because of like, you already have that your authentication session and everything. So it just takes advantage and, performs malicious activities, because you already have your session active and all of that. So REST now doesn't do that because REST, we're not working with any, we're not doing all of that here. We're sending each token as something that already, we're sending each request with its own authentication token. So each request now has everything that it needs. So that's what I mean by, for when you say stateless, it means that every request is independent of the previous one. So yes, that's what this part is about. Let us move. Now this particular slide now is basically just an overall view of what this is about. Now this HTTP here now is just the transport layer. You can also say it's just like delivery man or whatever. Now it's just like the rules or the methods, that's like get, post, put, delete, in which will now like this REST API now, you know, it's basically the endpoints now that the client calls. So the REST API now carries that data in JSON format. Now the HTTP now is basically the method delivery truck now that will help the REST API to like carry that data from maybe the client to the server, or to the server back to the client, or whatever, you know. So it's just more like the transport layer. Like I said here, it's just the transport layer. And then this stateless down here is already what I explained before. Every request carries all it needs, no session memory on the server, it's clean, it's secure, and it is scalable. So as for this JSON format, I'm pretty sure most of us know what a JSON format is. It's just a format in which data is transferred. I know that there is another one, XML. I've never worked with that, but I know it's under sort of data format. But yeah, it's JSON that we're working with here. So for the next slide, this HTTP methods here gets, this is basically just for reading data. You know, you ask the server for something, it help you to like fetch it from the database. You know, when we talk about well, I'm not talking about this here now. When we move to the next slide, I'll talk about it. Okay, but we have this get method for reading data. Then we have post is for creating data. If you want to, like, maybe you already have a list of users, you have 30 users at the moment, you want to add an extra user, you're using the post method for that. And then for putting, let's just say you have I'm a user now on the BB, and I want to update a particular field. For example, I want to update my email, I want to update my first name, my last name. I could just be using this put instead of me having to like use post where I have to like pass every field again. I could just use put to just update a particular field. So that's what that put is for. And then for delete, you know, it's obviously for removing data. That's what that one is for. Then response entity. I'm still going to go to my code base and show all of this. I just want to like have a brief rundown of this before I go to the code base. Okay, now response entity. Okay, response entity now. When your controller handles a request, it needs to send back more than just data. It also needs to say, did it work and what kind of response is this? These basically two questions that this is answering. You know, it's answering if the question of, oh, did this actually work and what kind of response is this? You know, so it's sending, the wrapper actually bundles three things: the body, that's the actual data, the status code, and then headers. Now, these status codes, now you can see it on the right side, 200. We have different, these are just the common ones. There are actually a lot, but these are just common ones. Even if you're a non-developer, you must have seen this 400 most times. Just, sorry, you must have seen this 404, this not found. Maybe you just click on something that doesn't exist. You see this 404, page not found, or whatever. So that one is like a very common status code that we encounter. Then 200 is just tell you that, okay, everything worked. Then this 201, we normally see it when you make a push request, maybe like you created a new user or something. So that new resource that was created successfully, you normally see 201 created. Then 400 is when you make like a really bad request, maybe when you're trying to like create a user and you're supposed to pass the first name field, the last name, the email, you're supposed to pass all of that, and you're not passing anything there, or you're passing invalid, whatever. So it's going to be a bad request. So you get this status code of 400. So that's what this part is about. And these annotations, yes, I'm going to, I think from after this slide, I'm going to head to my code base so I can explain these annotations a lot better. But the first one now is this at-rest controller. Now let me just deviate small here. You know, normally the flow is, we have a client, we have a server, and then we have a DB. Now that server now, we actually have 3 layers in that server. We have the controller, we have the service layer, and then we have the repository now. Now this controller is actually every request that is coming from the client here, it is hitting the controller layer. That's like the first, controller layer is basically just for handling requests. That's what it's for. The service layer is for business logic, all your, basically everything that's happening, that's, it's the service layer is just for the business logic. Then repository layer, that's that's the one that like talks to the database. So for this REST controller now, this controller here, obviously, like I said, it's basically what handles requests that are coming in and going out and all of that. And then this REST that's here is basically just saying that this request, you know, we're going to actually respond in JSON format. So like I wrote here, I said it marks a class as one that handles incoming HTTP requests and automatically sends responses in JSON format. It's the front door of your API. So whatever controller class you have, you're always going to have this annotation at REST controller. Then some other popular annotations that you would most see is this. Okay, let me talk about this at path variable. This at path variable now, for example, let's say you have a list of products here, And now the base endpoint for all of that is maybe slash products. That's like the base endpoint and all of that, base URL. But if you just want to get a particular product, you'd have to like read the ID. So this add path variable now, it actually reads the ID that you pass in the URL. So like, for example, you pass slash product slash 2. So it now gets, here, like I have here, example slash user slash 5. It actually first fetches the data of user with an ID of 5. That's what this add path variable does. Then at request body, this is normally used in post and then put request, because obviously you're going to like, for post request, I said this when you're like creating something, maybe you're creating a user, or you're creating an order or something, so you're passing a JSON body here. So you're going to have this at request body. It's actually just, you read the JSON data that is being sent in the request body. That's what this annotation is for. And at request param, normally when we're, I actually use this today for when you're like, maybe you're filtering or you're doing pagination or whatever, if you're saying, slash users, but then just give me like users on page 2, and maybe the page size should be 10 or whatever, this is normally where this request param comes in. You read query parameters, that's the bit after the question mark in your URL. Very sure if you have maybe a couple of open tabs now, if you check, most of them will probably have like maybe a question mark, just so that that's basically what request param is just doing. Then at valid, we're going to see this in my code base here, but at valid is just, let me go to the code base because I feel like I'm not talking too much. Okay, user management application. Okay, please, can someone respond? I actually want to know if I'm still audible. Am I audible?
Yes, ma, you are still audible, ma.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to continue. So I just built a user management application to just explain all I have talked about. So this one now is just, I just have a basic layered architecture. Let me just show my architecture, sure. I just have a basic layer architecture, controller, DTO, exception, model, repository, and service. I'm going to get into the main thing. So this is my model class. That's my user. It's obviously a table of my database. And then these annotations here at entity, this at entity is basically just saying that it's a table. This doesn't have to do with this REST API I'm teaching. I'm just basically explaining what I have on my code base. All these at data, at no at construct, at all at construct, these are just basically Lombok annotations and all of that. But this is my user model. It has an ID, a first name, a last name, an email, and a user role. So this is just my create user DTO. So here, that at valid annotation that I talked about now. You see in my create user requests DTO here, I have a field of first name, and I specify that this field cannot actually be blank, and I specify that the size has to be a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 50. And then if, maybe this is not, the message that I pass is first name must be between 2 and 50 characters, So all these things I wrote now, that's as valid annotations. We're going to use it in the user controller because it actually makes, what it does is that it makes sure that these annotations, this thing now that these rules that I'm setting here actually they're actually being heeded to, do you understand? So it just makes sure that, I'm passing this size and then we're actually implementing it. That's basically what that valid annotation does. But yeah, we can see all these annotations here at not blank, the email cannot be blank, you should provide a valid email. Then this one is just for updating requests, Then these are our user repository. I talked about the 3 layers that we have in the server, controller, service, and then repository. And I said repo is the one that is directly directly talking to your database. So this is my user repository. It's an interface. And I have a couple of methods here. That's find by email, exist by email, find by role. This user repository normally extends this, it always extends this JPA repository. And this JPA repository now has a lot of inbuilt methods. If you open this JPA repository now, you see a whole lot of, let me just open it quickly, You see a whole lot of inbuilt methods that, it already comes with find all. This isn't even showing half of all it has. It has seed, it has find by ID, has a whole lot. You barely ever need to even write a custom method by yourself. But here for writing custom methods, you also have a naming convention. You don't just name it anyhow. So this one now, find by email, exist by email, find by role. Then let me go to my user service. This is the interface, let me just go to the implementation of this user service. Now this user service, let me scroll up. Now this user service, now I mentioned how the service layer is what handles every business logic that you have. Now all the business logic that we have here, that's things that we need to be doing on this application here. We need to get all the users. Now this user service now and this user repository, they're like this. They're always working hand in hand. So for example, now to get all users, we already injected this user repository into this class. So this is why repository dot find all. These are the inbuilt methods that I told you that I mentioned that JPA repository that we're extending already gives you. So I didn't have to write any method like find all here. So this user repository dot find all, that's basically for getting all the users. Then get user by ID. We are finding a user by ID. Obviously, in the method, we're going to pass the user's ID. Then for creating a user, we have, remember, I showed you a DTO, this create user request. So this is the request that's coming for this create user. Obviously, it has to be of this type, of this shape, basically, create user request. So if user, what we're going to check first is when you're trying to create a user, it has to check first if this email already exists in the DB. So that's what we're saying here. User repository exists by email. Then we're checking the request. We're getting the email that's coming from this request, and then we'll check if it already exists in the DB. If it does, then it's now say a user with email. Then it's now display the email already exists. Then if not, if none of this happened, that this is a new user, then we'll now build a user. We'll now say, okay, user is equal to new user. Then we'll now set first name to be the first name that's coming from the request, and then we'll now save it. This is another method. This dot save now is another method that is coming directly from that JPA repository that we're extending now, user repository. Then for update user, these are basically just the same thing that is going on here. Deleting a user, we're deleting the user from, we're just deleting the user. Then get user by role. If you remember, in my user class, I have a field for role as well. So you can also get users by role. Then to what we have for today, the user controller. Now this user controller, now see the REST controller annotation that I talked about earlier. I told you every controller class has annotation. If it doesn't, it's not a controller class. Then at request mapping, this is basically just my base URL. That's like every other URL. This is my base URL, this slash API, it's HTTPS, dot // then my local host, my port number, then slash API slash users. Then for all these, this one now, this slash ID now, they're just going to come after these base URLs here. That's basically what it is. Every single request I'm sending now, they always have to have this slash API slash users. Then whatever wants to come next, slash ID can come next, slash whatever can just come next, yeah. But this thing must be there. Then we're injecting the user service in this controller class. I told you these three layers, they work hand in hand. Controller, service, and repo, they always work hand in hand. So then I talked about response entity. I told you that response entity is basically, it gives you both, the response, basically your data, and then it also gives you like response codes. Like, okay, if you created something, it gives you like, 201, that's it, you created something. If it's just okay, it's 200. If it's a bad request, it's 400, So that's what this response entity is doing here. So it's just good practice to use it, So this get all users now, as we can see, we already created this get all users method inside our user service. So that's basically what we're calling here. Then get mapping, this is for get user by ID. I talked about this at path variable. Now what it does for you is basically it's read your we're passing this ID now into URL. So it's read that particular ID. Like, let's say I passed let's say it's API slash user slash 5. It's going to get the user with an ID of 5. So it's basically just reading the URL. And for role, that's get user by role. We created a method in the user service that helps you do this. And then for creating a user, same thing, we already have a method. Most times, honestly speaking, these controller classes are very easy, honestly. Once you have your repo and your service, What you'll be doing here is basic stuff, honestly. You're just using the methods that you already created in your user service to make life easy for you. So create user, you have a user service create user, and then pass your request, and this is we're trying to create a user. So this is obviously post. All these ones have been get, because you're getting things from the DB. All these things already exist on the DB. You're not doing anything extraordinary, just getting it from the DB. But this post now is that you're trying to add something into the DB. So we're using post mapping. Then for put mapping, you're trying to like update maybe a field in this user or whatever. That's what put mapping is for. Then for delete mapping, for this delete mapping now, we also have to pass the ID of the user. Maybe we pass ID 1, and then we'll be able to like delete that user. That is it for this controller class. All these other ones are just my exceptions, and that's not what we have for today. So I'm going to run this so that you see. Please somebody say something so I know that you guys are still following me.
Yes, we have.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to, these are my, I already did all of this in my Postman here. So for the create user, let me just create a new user. So let's see what we're talking about. Samuel, Benga, Samuel, let's give him a role of admin. And well, let me check if my distance is actually running. Okay, it is. Then we send this. Okay, now the user Samuel has been created with an ID of 3. We can see that the format in which I'm sending this data now is JSON format, and the response I'm getting is also JSON, in a JSON format. And this 201 created now is that status, that response code I was talking about. This is a push request. So obviously we're getting this 201 created because you created a new resource, you created new data. Then I want to also, I also try to like create a field, whatever. I talked about that at valid annotations. I make sure that, okay, I said I had annotations that that would say at non-null for first name. So you need a first name, you need to pass a last name and all of that. So if you're not doing all of that here, it's not supposed to work. So I created like a fake, request, and as you can see, same first name is required, last name is required. Please provide a valid email, and then you can see the response code of 400 bad request. So yes, that's another one. Then for getting all users, this is just this one now. This is a get request, so we're not passing anything in the body. This is just a get request. This is basically just our base URL. HTTP localhost port then / that base URL which I specified in our request mapping API/users, and then it gives us. I already had 2 users before. Then this one I just did now, Samuel. You can see it's already updated on the list. Then for get users by ID, this get users by ID now, you just have to pass. This is where we use that path variable that I said it reads your base, it reads what's in your URL. So I'm passing a user ID of 3. If I send it now, you're going to see Samuel here. So I've gotten a user by ID. I don't want to, before what I did was to get all the users, but now I'm just trying to get a specific user. So I just specify the user's ID. Then the next thing I have is to, get this to filter maybe by role. I'm trying to get the customers that have this role of, I'm trying to get the users that have a role of, let me use a role of admin. So if I use a role of admin now and I run this, I'm going to have, the first person and then Samuel, because Samuel also has, when I created him, I set his role to be admin. And the last one should be when I want to update the user. Now, when you want to update the user, this is where we're using that put mapping. Now, put mapping, you also have to specify the user's ID. So I'm updating Samuel. So maybe, I think Samuel's email before was samuel@gmail.com. So let's use benga@gmail.com, and then let's send. As you can see, we've gotten 200 okay, and the email field has been updated. So yes, that is basically what these whole REST APIs are for. Just this is what they are for. This So I think I've explained to the best of my knowledge and to the best of what Samuel has taught me, because like he said, I'm his favorite student, even though he doesn't want to say it, but I'm his favorite student. So whatever I explained is what I got from Samuel and a few YouTubers. So that will be it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lena. I really appreciate me. I think everybody is appreciating the session. I would have loved to show my face again, but I think these NEPA people are just doing themselves. Thank you very much for that wonderful session. So please let's ask our questions.
Samuel, please.
let's ask our questions. Do you have a question? Balogun, oh yeah, ask that question that you want to ask. Balogun, two people must ask question before we end this session. Balogun, I say you must ask your question. You have question. Stop eating now.
I think I was very. Oh my God.
Miss Inena, thank you so much for today's session. It was really exciting, sincerely speaking. Thank you so much. My question is there any way by which we can maybe do a partial update, kind of, not a full update? Like, is there, like, what I mean is there an HTTP method that we can use for maybe a partial update, kind of, and not a full update of an entity?
A partial update. When you say like a partial update, do you mean like just updating a particular?
Okay.
Do you mean like just updating a particular field?
Yes. For example, you use the user entity in the example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I only want to update maybe the last name or the first name alone, or maybe just two of those properties.
Okay, we actually have this. I didn't show that chart, and I just remember that I did not show that. But we have this what we call patch mapping. That patch mapping now is actually for a partial update. You only send the fields that you actually want to change. So I think that should be like the answer to your question. So we have, aside this get mapping and put mapping and other mappings I showed now, there's actually patch. Although honestly, I've rarely used it, but it's actually patch, which is for partial update.
Okay. Balogun, does that do?
Thank you very much.
The question?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sir Balogun. And Ife, your question. Ife, your question must be intelligible. I'm hearing you.
Yeah, good evening, someone. Listen, yeah, thank you for the presentation. It was really insightful and everything. Honestly, I don't have a question. I just want, just like an appreciation. She did a good job in explaining it from what REST was to HTTP methods, how we should use our HTTP response code and more. So she also gave a good practical knowledge. So that's all I have to say. Not the question, just appreciation. So thank you.
You're very welcome, Ife.
How long will you continue to disappoint me? It's fine. It's fine. So let's just thank you very much, Nina, for that wonderful session. That was a powerful, really very short, power packed session of how to build REST API. Just simply with this you can bootstrap anything and just start building from there. This is where you start from and then you start scaling. It's from this particular point you start and then you build an application that can actually solve the world cancer issue. You get also world Ongalisha. Yes, thank you very much for that, DVP. We have in our midst here one of our senior engineers and our admin. Let's just give him some time to just admonish us. Mr. Amos, I don't know if you can hear me. Please, if you can just admonish us.
Okay. Hi, Samuel. Thank you so much. Um,
Yes, sir.
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, guys, and I'm so happy today to be in this section. Actually, I came late, but I think I follow major part of the conversation, and that was a wonderful presentation. No more concern from me. I appreciate the presenter. Thank you, guys, for the good work always.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful one. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So wrap up, I'll call my boss. She's my boss. Madam Gloria, please, if you can wrap us up and we'll be on our merry way. Hopefully she can hear me. Madam.
Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening, everyone.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Amos. Thank you for joining. Nina, thank you so much for that powerful section. Yeah, that was an awesome one. So for those that, I don't know, why are people leaving? For those that are joining us for the first time, yeah, you can join our other social medias with the handles dropped in the chat. And for those that made it to be a success tonight, to say a very big thank you for your time. I believe you must have grabbed one or two things today to add to the ones you know, yeah? So, Nina, thank you very much. I'll be reaching out to Samuel to get your contact. I'll reach out to you on or before tomorrow. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, let's have a wonderful night rest. Thank you all for joining this session. Have a good day. We'll meet again Saturday, Tuesday. Have a good night rest.